to the Form and Function Salon podcast, not the Thai food podcast. I am your host, Benjamin Jay, and that is at BNJMNJY on Instagram. So, 2018 Salon entrepreneurs, is it off to a good start? Did you have your wild party kicking off the new year? Did you get to relax at home and just bring in the new year in a wonderful, quiet environment? Whatever you did, I hope that it was the beginning to the new year that you wanted. I am excited about it. We had our salon hair loft kickoff party yesterday, Ignition. We call it that because it's how we start the year every year, setting up our goals. And starting with our first podcast episode here of 2018, it's a little different format. The episodes in the past have been sort of a lesson or a story that I wanted to share, but this one's going to be based around an article that I came across, and I came across it because my mom sent it to me. And the article was published December 29th in the Chicago Tribune, if you want to go read it, and it is titled, Chicago Restaurant Owners See Correction. A lot more closings coming in 2018. So, 2016 here in Chicago, we saw a lot of high-profile openings. Lots of things that got a lot of coverage, a number of things that got Michelin stars. If you're not familiar with the restaurant industry, a Michelin star is the top-notch award that a restaurant can win. And unfortunately, the following year in 2017, we saw a lot of those high-profile openings close for a number of different reasons. And I think the reason that my mom sent me this article is because I find a lot of inspiration and insight from looking at other industries. I don't always just follow what the salon industry is doing. I think that sometimes that gets a little boring, honestly, and a little stale. And I like to look at other businesses and just sort of see trends in business and not just within the salons. So there were a lot of things here in the article that I think correlate directly to the same challenges that we're seeing in the salon industry. And so I wanted to pass along this article, sort of dissect it a little bit, and just relay it to how it might be affecting you. And so one of the challenges, the first challenge that they brought up, is that there are too many restaurants. From the article, too many businesses are all competing for the same dollars. Now, absolutely, that has carryover into the salon. You go to any neighborhood, town, city, there are dozens of options for you to get your hair. Even in small towns. I've been to small towns where there's more salons than there are bars. And the reality is the industry just cannot support everybody. There aren't that many people demanding services at that rate. And I think that for the industry and the beauty school industry, it's one of the biggest challenges is that we continue to flood the market with people that, quite honestly, aren't necessary. And that's why the industry has such a high dropout rate. It's not always just about passion. It mainly is because there aren't enough people to support the jobs that are trying to be forced into the market. And so the solution for too many salons and too many stylists, it's not a good one, but the reality is that the market will decide who stays. Those that continue to deliver consistent and amazing experiences, those that do great work, and those that are able to build a following and a reputation, those are going to be the ones that continue to stay. And if you can't get your foot in the door, if you can't make that impact, then I don't know how you're going to be able to do it. Maybe you just scrape by, but the market is always the one who decides who stays. Next challenge is sky-high rents and rising taxes. Now we know that real estate goes up, right? It's one of the things that, the safest investment that you can make typically is real estate. And so those rents continue to go. I just read a separate article last night that there's a restaurant near our West Loop salon that has been there for 25 years. They've been a cornerstone of the neighborhood. They're currently paying $44 a square foot, and when their lease is up, their landlord wants to raise it somewhere between $60 and $75 per square foot. Talk about a jump, right? You're talking about jumping, 20% practically? And so while location is vital to success, and I would be willing to pay a premium to put myself in a position that is either going to fit my brand or is going to give me the possibility of higher walk-in traffic, or is going to put me next to a really good partner. Something like if you could be next to like a Starbucks or an Apple store where that is going to really help drive traffic to get people to see you, you could say that that's going to be valuable. But one of the things to be able to sort of control your rent, and this goes for everybody, whether you're in a position now or if you're going to shoot for this in the future, is ownership. If you are able to purchase the unit that you are in, you are then at least able to control your destiny a little bit more in terms of having your rent adjusted on you. And if you're not, then maybe choosing an area that, while you're not in the crosshairs of the most popular part of town, you're sort of on the side street. You're just off that block. But rent is a challenge. Taxes are a challenge. And so no matter what, we have to factor those things into the price of how you're going to price your services. Don't just follow the menu from the salon down the street, because their costs are not your costs. You have to base your menu off of what you need to get out of it. Good help is hard to find. If there was one challenge that I've heard owners say, it's that, where do we find good stylists? Where do we find good stylists? Well, I don't know that you find good stylists much as you find good people. And you find good people and then you make them good stylists. Owner's challenge is oftentimes we hired somebody, we started to train them, and they left. Or we hired somebody, we trained them all the way, and then they were only with us for 6 months. I get it, guys, I get it. We've invested time, we've invested resources, and of course we want to see that person flourish and build their business and become successful. And then they left, and it's this huge disappointment. We're upset that there's the emotional side and the financial side. But the reality is, you've got to do it. It's just part of business. And so by developing those people and pushing their skills, I have found that usually means that you retain them longer. I had a client come in a couple of weeks ago, actually, and they own a couple of restaurants here in Chicago. And I was talking to him about challenges that he was facing. And he said, which I thought was really interesting, was that they are having the hardest time trying to fill their sort of back of house waiter jobs, hostess positions. And I said, well, what do you think it is? And he said that they are seeing a lot of people choose to be Uber or Lyft drivers and sort of filling into this gig economy. And I thought that was really interesting, because that is, for restaurants, that is probably the workforce that tended to do those kind of jobs, that now they're choosing to do these other gig services so that, they can work when they want to. It might help them pursue some other things, and that is a big hit for them. Now, for us in the salon, I don't think that we're seeing the same issue, because I think people are more getting into a salon position. They're going to school for it. They want it to be a career. But it really comes back to engaging. We did an episode a few episodes ago about hiring and recruiting. If you're constantly recruiting, when you then need somebody, you're not in as bad of a position to hire, because you've already recruited. You've got a backlog of people that want to work for you. If you don't start recruiting until you need somebody, well, then you're going to be shorthanded. And so I would definitely, if you feel like that one is really, like that touched you, go back and listen to the hiring and recruiting episode. Next one is high startup costs. The article had a little snippet from the gentleman that started the Let Us Entertain You restaurant group back in 1971. Phenomenally successful restaurant group. They started here in Chicago. I think that they've expanded to multiple cities across the country. And he said, when he started RJ Grunt's, which was his original restaurant in 1971, he did the whole thing for $80,000. And today, he couldn't build 2 bathrooms for $80,000. Salons, I believe, have a misconception that opening a salon is going to be cheap. Oh, what do you need? Some stations, some mirrors. No big deal. Well, there's a lot more that goes into it than that if you're doing something larger than a studio or a suite somewhere. And certainly one of the advantages to the studio or a suite is that for the most part, I believe many of them come fairly well furnished. And so your startup cost might be a little lower. I don't know all the details, so that may or may not be true. But I know in my experience, both of our build outs have gone over budget, and both of them were in six figures. Now, we have some pretty large spaces. But the reality is that the cost of doing a build out is not going to go down. The companies that sort of have a grip on the niche salon furniture market, they charge a premium for the stuff that they make because it's specialty. And so in terms of solutions, one solution is if you are looking to either move or you're looking to open your own salon, is finding a place that has a lot of it already built in. Maybe it was already a salon before. And so you can use their plumbing, you can use their electrical upgrades, because those are two areas that I have found you sink a lot of dollars into, because salons need water and salons need a lot of power. Another option is, and I don't mean this in like the thriftiest of senses, but be thrifty. What can you do that you can either make yourself or have friends and family help you with? Give it that sort of handcrafted feel. Not everything has to be purchased right away. And that is my next recommendation also is, what is your needs list and what is your wants list? What do you need in order to get open? What do you need in order to set the tone of what the experience is going to be? Okay, and then what do you want, right? Like, what is ultimately a wish list item that, we can get that in 3 months, 6 months. We can get that next year once we balance the budget a little bit and get some money back. Because without having that bank account to fall back on, if you're not well funded, I can guarantee you there's going to be a slow month. Right now we're entering into January and February. Typically, industry-wide, those months seem to be a little bit slower. And so while business is cranking in November and December, we're excited, like, this is the best. We did our best month ever. And then all of a sudden it's like, hit the brakes, right? Now things are going to slow down. And so if you don't have the funding, that's when things can get really difficult. And so if you don't put everything into your startup costs, it allows you then to save a little bit of money so that you've got that rainy day fund. The next challenge from the article is the media. The article says that blogs, unfortunately, prioritize new things. And so, when you're looking at these listicles or you're looking at the hot spots of where to go, everything is new. And so it becomes really hard for a restaurant that is in its second, third, fifth, 10th, 15th year, if you're able to last that long. It becomes really hard for them to be able to market and have the media give them extra coverage and get out there. I actually think that in the salon world, it's a little bit opposite, where when you tend to look at the coverage, I feel like we tend to see the same names over and over and over again in the traditional magazines, and the people that are pushed to the top of all these articles and various different companies. I feel like you see the same names over and over. And obviously there's new people that are doing great stuff. And so the answer here is, you may not have realized it, but every company today is a media company. You are in charge of your own destiny. You are in charge of spreading the word about your services and your brand and getting your name out there. And whether that is you're going to do it through social, or you're going to put together a media kit and press kit and take it to your local blogs, or even maybe your newspapers. They could do a write-up or something. They love content. They need stuff. And if you can write it, even the better. But it's nobody else's responsibility to promote you. And so if you switch your mindset from, well, we're just a salon and nobody's giving us coverage, switch your mindset to, we're a media company that does salon services. And then you're able to create your inbox campaigns, your social content, your video work, and push it online and get it in front of the people that need to be seeing it. And then the last one is lack of creativity. And they have my favorite quote from the article, which says, "How did we go from 0 poke shops to more than 5 in 1 year? How many ramen places open that aren't doing great ramen? Restaurants with reclaimed wood and Edison light bulbs and bourbon and pork, how many of these can we support?" And the reason that I like that one is because I think that so hits on another challenge in our industry, is that honestly, so many salons look the same. And I don't just mean from the paint that's on the wall, but we're doing very similar steps to the service. And I don't know that there's necessarily a way to get around it. But look at the industry. I mean, dry bar blew up, and then how many people were like, "Oh, yeah, well, let's do a dry bar," right? And oftentimes even just ripped the brand, and we're like, "Yeah, we're a dry bar, we're a blow dry bar." The trend in men's salons. I get it, right? Like for a long time, men weren't focused on. Somebody came along and was like, "We're going to build a cool men's place," and now it seems like everybody's trying to build a cool men's place, but yet they do them all the same. "Oh, we're going to do oversized chairs for guys, and we're going to give them manicures." Like, is that actually what guys want? I don't know. But you get my point, is that everybody's kind of following trends in order to establish a business. Whereas if you really want to stand out from the crowd, is drive your purpose over trends. Why are you here? What is the purpose of your business? If you fit that is the personality of the business that you've created. That's why it's here. Drive that to the consumer. And then the consumer's like, "Wow, this is an original place. They're all about confidence, not necessarily just about cutting hair." And so I think that is something that I see missing. And again, on a previous episode, you could go listen to our Do It On Purpose episode. I think it was our first one. But yeah, I thought that it was good stuff. Too many restaurants, sky-high rents and rising taxes. Good help is hard to find. High startup costs, the media, and lack of creativity. All things that if the restaurant industry is having a challenge with it, then I'm sure that the salon industry is having a challenge with it. It's the same thing that I'm sure any retail establishment is having challenges with. And so that's why I like looking across the board at other industries to see what they're doing, how they're feeling, and what I can borrow from them in order to build the salon. So I would love your feedback here. What do you think? Are these challenges that you've had, and how have you tried to combat them, or how have you overcome them? Email me, ben@thehairloftltd.com. I'd love to hear from you. But hit that subscribe button. I would love a 5-star review if you're enjoying the show. That does make our podcast here more discoverable, so we can find more stylists and salon owners and share with them. But until the next episode, go out to your favorite restaurant, help support them, and keep living your successful lifestyle.